Hi, 8th grade. This is Mrs. Martin, and I'm here for the second book talk of the school year. First off, just a couple reminders about getting books from our library. Now that we are distance learning, you are still able to be getting a hold of books from our library at school and reading using Mac and Via. So, just a couple of quick things. Remember, you can be placing books on hold using Destiny Discover. You just go to the Library Media Center homepage there off the Academics tab and log in using your student ID and Colab password. After you've placed books on hold, you will get a Schoology message from me or from Mrs. Kump, and that'll let you know your books are ready for pickup. We're going to have a cart of books outside of the main office there in that vestibule where you can pick up your books as soon as you get that Schoology message to let you know that they are ready. Always, at any time, of course, you can use that Mac and Via app on your iPad, and that's for ebooks and audiobooks. And if you have any questions about how to get logged in there, or if you're having any issue with it, please reach out on Schoology and let me know. I'm happy to help you. Speaking of that Destiny Discover catalog, we are trying to make that as user-friendly as possible, making it a little bit more visual, and we are switching up that top banner frequently as a way to remind you of some of the different books that are in the library, make it a little easier to shop for things to read. Right before the presidential election, we had books there about, as you can see here, elections and voting. Now we've switched over to books that are focused on giving you a break from being on Zoom, because I would guess as we're now making this transition to distance learning, you might be spending more time on your iPad or your Chromebook or laptop, and you might be looking for ways, like I am, to get off of those screens. So we've placed up here some books for you, whether they're cookbooks or crafting books, things that are a little bit about hands-on kinds of things. There's origami, just some other things to take a look at. Again, you can check these out from the library. You use that login up in the top right corner and then place the books on hold. Let's get into our books for today. The first one I'm sharing with you is one that maybe I've shared in an earlier book talk, but I wanted to mention it again because it's such a great one when you're looking for a page-turning adventure. And I know, at least for me, sometimes when I'm at home, excuse me, it's hard for me to focus for long periods of time on something to read. And this is a good one for you get to the end of the chapter and you want to find out what's going to happen next. Peg Carrot is that kind of writer. This story that she's written, Abduction, is about a brother and sister. They attend a school kind of like Southview and Valley Middle School, where the elementary and middle are connected to each other. Bonnie is approached in her middle school classroom and told that her little brother Matt at the elementary has gone missing. He asked, kind of toward the end of the day to go use the bathroom, and he never returned to his classroom. When a police dog is used to trace his scent, they trace Matt's scent to the curb, where apparently he got into a car. But Bonnie can't understand why that would happen. Matt would never go anywhere with a stranger, so she assumes this must be someone that he knows. And the more questions that are asked, the more questions are raised. Bonnie figures out some things as this goes along, but it ends up getting her into some trouble too. This is a kidnapping kind of a story where Bonnie, our main character, gets involved as well. Very exciting, very adventurous. Again, like I said, a story where you're going to want to find out at the end of each chapter where things are headed next. The book is Abduction by Peg Carrot. It's in the adventure section of our library, so if you were walking down to the shelves, that's where you'd go. But again, you can use the Destiny Discover catalog to put this one on hold. This next one is a nonfiction story. It's called Craig and Fred. As you can see, it's by Craig Grassi, and it is about a Marine, a stray dog, and how they rescued each other. And he's going to tell you his story right here in this video. Let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Craig, and this is Fred, and we have a book coming out. It's called Craig and Fred, a U.S. Marine, a stray dog, and how they rescued each other. And Fred just wanted to say hi because he wants to get his credit as the co-author. He had a lot to do with it. I let him type on my computer, and he got it kind of muddy, but it's fine. I met Fred in Afghanistan, a place called Sangin District that's in Helmand Province. It's in the southern part of Afghanistan. In 2010, I was a U.S. Marine. We were sent there to help secure the area. The villagers needed some help with a situation there, and it was a pretty violent place for a lot of reasons. And it wasn't the place that I thought I'd meet my first dog, but here we are. That first day when I walked over to him, I saw him kind of trot across the compound, and I just saw his tail bobbing, and at first he looked like a big dog because he's got this big head and this big tail, and he's got this big chest, and his chest is puffed out. And I looked up over my computer, and he's got these legs, and it's like he's 2 dogs long and 1 dog tall, and he's just trotting across the compound, and I'm like, what is this guy? So I got a little piece of beef jerky, and I started walking over to him, and as I got close, he started to wag his tail, and like little dust is kicking up around his tail as he's wagging it, just kind of looking at me, and I was stopped me right in my tracks. It's like, what does this dog have to wag his tail at? Absolutely nothing. I mean, he has never been shown any love or any compassion by a person. He's covered in bugs. He's hot and hungry, but he's wagging his tail at me, and he doesn't know me at all, and that moment, really kind of describes and kind of summarizes Fred's philosophy and Fred's message to me and to everyone else. It's like, no matter how miserable you might be or how hard things might be, you can always wag your tail, and you can always, fly that flag of being stubbornly positive, and it can change your world for the better. I mean, rescuing him ultimately wasn't that challenging. It was just the right thing to do. But the things that he showed me and the lessons that he's taught me and how he's rescued me is still ongoing. I'm still learning from him every day, and it's kind of an immeasurable impact on my life.
So obviously, if you are an animal lover or you like a good friendship story, this book would be perfect. I love that this is a true story. And if you have an interest in the Marines, too, of course, this is going to have that element to it as well. The Agony House by Sherry Priest is a mystery. And this is set in New Orleans. It's taking place shortly after Hurricane Katrina. Denise is our main character, and she's just moved back with her mom and her stepdad after Hurricane Katrina. Their family doesn't have a lot of money. As a result, they've kind of put all their money into this very run-down house. You can see it there on the cover. And they've decided that what they're going to do is try and rebuild or renovate, I should say, this old house and make it into a bed and breakfast where people will come and stay. And hopefully they can make some money that way. Well, because it's such an old rundown house, nothing seems to work around there, which isn't all that unusual. There's all these kind of unexplained noises. Things don't work very well. The roof leaks and there's boards that are, popping up out of the floor and that kind of thing. All that makes sense. But then other things are happening. There's creepy voices that she's hearing at all hours. Floors are collapsing and objects are falling from the ceiling at different points. So it seems after a bit to Denise that something more sinister, maybe something kind of evil, is actually living within the walls of this house. That it isn't just an old house, that maybe there's something about this that's haunted or evil in some way. And she believes, after finding a comic book in the attic, that there's a connection to this comic book. The comic book, in being there, there's it was the final project of a famous artist who disappeared in the 1950s, and she believes that perhaps there's some reason that comic book was left behind, and that maybe that's somehow connected to the weird, unusual things going on within this house. You can see if you can find out what exactly happens with Denise, with her family, how things are going to go with this house, and what mystery needs to be solved by reading The Agony House. I've had lots of students come back and tell me how much they enjoyed this story, so I hope that you do too. The Compound by S.A. Bodine. I wanted to throw in this very, very short book trailer before telling you about the book. It's super quick. Let me show you.
Eli and his family have lived in the compound for 6 years. The world they knew is gone. Eli's father built the compound to keep them safe. Now, they can't get out. He won't let them. The Compound by S.A. Bodine. Available wherever books are sold.
I wanted to show you that just because I think it sets an interesting tone. You can tell why this book is of a science fiction nature, right? We're kind of in this, perhaps not so distant future. There's been a nuclear disaster of some sort that has caused people to have to go underground to live. And that's why Eli's family's been there for 6 years, right? Their world, as the trailer said, is gone. They've become accustomed to their new life. They're not exactly happy living underground, but they are adjusting. They have adjusted to being where they are. But even living there with his two sisters, his mom, his dad, they're having to do the same thing day after day, right? Nothing changes because they're in this place. They can't go anywhere. Eli, after a while, can't help but wonder if he'd rather take his chances outside. Because the longer they're there, the more he begins to wonder whether or not everything his family has told him is actually true. That's the start of this series. It's the first book called The Compound. What if you had been living underground and you'd been doing what you thought was the safe, right thing to do, and then you started to doubt whether that was actually the truth? And the people who had told you that were the people right closest to you, right? Your family. Wow. Try this one out. It's a real short read, this very first book in the series, and I think it's one that you'd really get into. My very last one to share is Braced by Alison Gerber, realistic fiction. And our main character here, as you can tell, not only from the cover, but also from the picture on the very right, is dealing not with the kind of braces that you'd have on your teeth, that most of us are unfortunately familiar with, but the kind of brace that you wear on your back. Rachel is really excited for her new school year. She is the forward on her school soccer team. She's got a good group of friends who she is enjoying and having fun with, and she's even got a guy that she is interested in, and she thinks he's interested back, so that's going well. She has one last appointment with her scoliosis doctor. And scoliosis, for those who don't know, it's something that affects the curvature of your spine. And so she has dealt with this for a number of years in her life, and she's looking forward to her doctor saying, everything looks good, and you don't need to come back for any more checkups. Well, the doctor unfortunately delivers very different news than what she's expecting. The sideways curve in her spine, instead of getting better, it has gotten way worse. And she needs to wear a back brace 23 hours out of every day. Basically, unless she's, showering, she needs to have it on. And because it wraps her in hard plastic from, all the way from her shoulder blades down to her hips, it changes how her clothes fit. It changes how she kicks a ball in soccer. It changes how everybody sees her, her friends, her family, the guy she likes. It even changes the way that Rachel is seeing herself. That's this story called Braced. And if you think you'd like to read this book, you can check it out by Alison Gerber. My last announcement is about the online Scholastic Book Fair that is being offered starting November 16th, going all the way through November 29th. It'd be really fun if we could do this in person, but at least this fall, I am excited that we can do it online. All the purchases do support our school, so thank you in advance. to any of you that do end up purchasing things through your friends or families. We do have our links available on the library homepage. There is a link for the book fair. There's also a link for a promo video if you want to see some of the great books that are being offered. I wanted to share 2 quick book trailers for 2 of the great books that are being offered this fall. We will start with this one.
My name is Sarah Zapata. I tried to cross the border to escape some very bad men. Now I'm trapped in this detention center. If they let me stay in the U.S., I can start a new life. But if they send me back to Mexico, I'm a dead woman. My brother Emiliano made it all the way to Chicago where our father lives. But the men who hunted us know we have a way to bring them down. They won't stop until they find my brother and silence him forever. And I won't stop until I figure out a way to help him. Look for Illegal at your Scholastic Book Fair.
So that's one for your consideration. And here is one other.
You've probably seen the video. Everyone has. Me talking about my boyfriend Will and how he paid someone to take the most important test of his life. The school is doing an investigation. Chances are, this is going to ruin Will's life. I never said those things about Will. It's a deep fake. And I'm going to find out who made it. See if you can spot deepfake at your Scholastic Book Fair.
You can be watching on Schoology for more information about the book fair or take a look at the library homepage for information. Thanks so much for your attention to the book talk. Please reach out on Schoology if you have any questions, and in the meantime, happy reading.